Consider this. A radar-guided missile fired from 60 miles away will cover that distance in under 2 minutes. If you are the target, you have less than 2 minutes from the moment of launch to detect the threat, assess your options, deploy countermeasures, maneuver, and evade. If you do not detect the launch immediately, that window shrinks. If your systems do not automatically alert you, it shrinks further. And if you are relying on speed alone to save you, you have already lost, because the missile is faster. This has forced a fundamental rethinking of what it means to dominate airspace. It is no longer about being the fastest or the most agile. It is about being the first to achieve situational awareness, the first to detect, the first to decide, the first to act. And this is where aircraft like the F-35 become relevant. Not because it is the fastest fighter ever built, it is not. Not because it can outturn every opponent, it cannot, but because it was designed from the beginning around a different philosophy, a philosophy that prioritizes information over speed, awareness over aggression. The F-35 integrates sensors in a way that previous generations of fighters do not. Its radar, its infrared search and track system, its electronic warfare suite, its communication links, they all feed into a central processor that fuses the data and presents it to the pilot as a single, coherent picture. The pilot does not need to interpret multiple screens, cross-reference instruments, or manually correlate information. The system does it, and it does it faster than any human could. This changes the nature of the fight. A pilot in an F-35 can detect threats that a pilot in an older aircraft cannot. Not because the older aircraft lacks radar, but because the older aircraft requires the pilot to manually search, manually track, manually prioritize. And in the seconds it takes to do that, the F-35 pilot has already seen, assessed, and acted. This is not about technology for technology's sake. This is about collapsing the decision loop to a point where the opponent cannot react in time. But there is a cost. The cost is psychological. Pilots are no longer the primary sensor. They are managers of information. The aircraft sees. The pilot decides based on what the aircraft shows him. And there is a deeply human discomfort in that relationship. Because if the system is wrong, if the sensor misidentifies a target, if the data is corrupted, the pilot has no independent way to verify. He must trust the machine. And trust in combat is earned slowly and lost instantly. There are stories, unverifiable but persistent, of pilots in advanced aircraft refusing to engage targets they could not visually confirm, not because they lacked confidence in the system, but because the instinct to see with your own eyes, to know with absolute certainty, is almost impossible to override. And in the gap between system certainty and human doubt, engagements are lost. This is the human cost of the shift, and it is rarely discussed, but it is real. Because as combat becomes more automated, as decisions happen faster, the role of the pilot changes. They are no longer purely warriors, they are operators, and that distinction matters, not legally, not tactically, but emotionally. A pilot who shoots down an aircraft he never saw, based on a radar signature interpreted by a computer, carries that differently than a pilot who saw the enemy, maneuvered, fought, and won. Both are legitimate, both are necessary, but they are not the same. And as warfare continues to evolve, this distinction will only deepen. Now, it would be easy to conclude from all of this that speed no longer matters, that maneuverability is obsolete, that the future belongs entirely to sensors and networks, but that would be wrong. Speed still matters, but it matters differently. A faster aircraft can reposition more quickly. It can extend out of a threat envelope, regroup and re-engage on better terms. It can cover more battle space in less time. These are not trivial advantages, but they are secondary advantages. Speed enhances the value of awareness. It does not replace it. An aircraft that is fast but blind will still lose to an aircraft that is slower but sees first, because the slower aircraft will fire first. And in beyond visual range combat, the first shot often decides the outcome. This is the new hierarchy: detection, decision, speed, in that order. And this hierarchy is not limited to fighter aircraft. The same principles apply to drones, to bombers, to surface-to-air systems, to naval combat, to ground operations. The side that sees first, that processes information faster, that shares that information across a networked force, that side wins. Not always, not in every engagement, but consistently enough that the pattern is undeniable. Consider drone warfare. A predator or raper is not fast, it is not maneuverable, it cannot dogfight, but it can loiter for hours, observe continuously, and relay real-time information to commanders who can then direct other assets. The drone itself may never fire a shot, but it enables others to fire with precision and timing that would be impossible without it. This is awareness as a weapon. Or consider modern surface-to-air missile systems. The S-400, the Patriot. These are not mobile in the way an aircraft is mobile, but they are networked. They share tracking data. They can engage targets that no single radar installation could detect on its own. And they can do so with reaction times faster than any human operator could manage manually. The trend is clear. Warfare is becoming less about individual platforms and more about integrated systems. Less about isolated engagements and more about battlespace management. And in that environment, the side with superior awareness has an advantage that speed alone cannot overcome. This has strategic implications that extend far beyond tactics. If awareness is the new currency of combat, then investments shift, not just toward faster jets, but toward better sensors, better data links, better processing, better networks. And this changes what makes a military powerful. A nation with older aircraft but superior networking can potentially overmatch a nation with newer aircraft but fragmented systems. This is not speculation. This is being tested quietly in exercises and engagements around the world, and the results are consistent. But there is a darker implication here as well. If combat is increasingly decided by who sees first, then combat is increasingly decided before contact. The engagement window, the moment when both sides are aware of each other and maneuvering for advantage, that window is shrinking. And as it shrinks, the space for human judgment shrinks with it. Decisions that once took minutes now take seconds. Decisions that once involved discussion now happen automatically. And in that compression, errors become catastrophic. A misidentified radar signature is no longer a near miss, it is a shoot-down. A corrupted data link is no longer an inconvenience, it is mission failure. And a delayed decision is no longer recoverable, it is defeat. This is the cost of speed, not airspeed, decision speed.
Missiles away.
And it raises uncomfortable questions. At what point does automation cross from assistance to autonomy? At what point does the pilot stop deciding and start confirming? And at what point does the human become a liability in a decision loop that operates faster than human cognition can follow? These questions do not have easy answers, and they are not being asked loudly, but they are being asked because the shift is already happening. Modern air combat is no longer a duel between pilots. It is a contest between systems, and the system that detects first, processes fastest, and acts most decisively, that system wins, whether a human is in the loop or not. This is not the future. This is the present, and it is only the beginning. Because as sensor technology improves, as data processing becomes faster, As networks become more resilient, the advantage of early detection will only grow, and the penalty for late awareness will only become more severe. The mythology of the lone fighter pilot, relying on skill and instinct to outfly the enemy, is fading, not because pilots lack skill, but because skill is no longer the deciding factor. Information is. And information, unlike skill, can be shared, distributed, weaponized across an entire force. This shift is irreversible. The question now is not whether awareness dominates speed. It does. The question is what comes next, when engagements are decided before aircraft ever meet, when detection and decision happen faster than human reaction allows, when the space between seeing and consequence collapses to nothing. We are entering an era where combat is won in the moment before combat begins. And in that moment, speed is irrelevant. Subscribe, like, and share for more.